Well, she's out of mothballs.
Train, 16 coaches long.
Now you see why. Well, I finally got the building completed enough where I could put this thing in here, and as you can tell, trying to make it mix in. I'm going to go back to one of my original things I was talking about, was make sure you have a place for this thing, because this thing eats a lot of room. It just eats a lot of room, and even when you build something that's totally climate controlled and whatever, and you have to put it in here and you want to stick it in with the rest of your decor, then you got to deal with these ugly legs and the unfinished sides and all that. So that's going to be my next project. I'm going to get this thing up and cleaned. I've taken the paintbrush over and loosened up everything that I could loosen up on this thing's been sitting out and been exposed to dust and everything else. So I'm kind of loosening up everything and brushing it all, and then taking the big rigid to it. Got a soft bristle brush I've taped on here, and just doing a little vacuuming. After a few days of getting this track fine-tuned, I finally got it where the two trains will run, and they run pretty flawless. Still have an issue with the steamer here. It has an issue with coming out of this tunnel right here, this most hard to get to tunnel, somewhere just up inside that tunnel. It has an issue. So if I'm at speed control number 8 or slower, it will derail and come out of that tunnel derailed. So it doesn't like it there, but at 8 it runs just fine. As you can see, I went ahead and put all of the buildings and things back onto the track, because as you can see, I have some trees, and I figure I'd go over a little bit of that here. But first I was gonna try to tackle some of this decor problem. I did get the sides here painted, and I didn't use anything real expensive. These are paints out of Walmart, you know, like 90 cents or $1 a thing. I mixed up a couple of them. It's the same color that I used on the base of this when I redid that base. So I just painted the sides all up so it looks a little bit better in here. And the other thing I'm doing, I'm trying to cover this ugly wood, and I did have to strengthen this base up a little bit. I found that I only have one screw holding in each leg, so the thing was pretty wobbly. And I did have these double 2x4 legs that were canted off at an angle, all except for in the back over there, and I had to cut me another 2x4, and then I triple screwed it. But as you could tell, it's pretty ugly for just sitting in here. If I want it to look good too, also the legs are pretty ugly for printed numbers and such on them, so that's gonna have to be fixed. But on this face thing, I ended up taking some cedar pickets. You look on my window over there, I put cedar pickets, and I had stained them and waterproofed them, and I used them for that. So I'm trying to match that up a little bit, so I used them on the front edge here to make that look better. And I still got to buy a couple more of these. Those things are cheap. They're 3.5 inches. They're 3.5 inches and 3/4 inch thick, and they're $1.28 for 6-foot piece. So you know, you can afford to put those on there. That's not that expensive. So I've got this already set, so I'm gonna have to buy a couple more and some for the back, but I'll finish that. But the general look is a whole lot better than what it was. And what I'm going to end up doing, these pine legs, I'm going to end up having to move this thing outside and take my sander to it and get these legs smoothed up a little bit. Then I'll probably just stain those as is and see how they look. And the trees, well, as you can see, I did get some trees on here, and they don't look terrible. They're not all fastened down, but I put them in here. And the way I did that was I took all the Woodland Scenics trees and I put them all in places that, like right here, where I wanted them. And I poked a hole in and stuck the tree in, and I had them all put in here with no leaves. And then I, at a little bit at a time, I'll grab some out and bring them over here to my little workbench. Then I took my little workbench off the whole front here, so I have nowhere to work with over here. So I got me a roll cart, and I've been working off of this. When I'm done, I can just take the stuff off top of the wood and slide it underneath there. When I want to work, I pull it back out. And you can see I just put some trees over here, and I'll deck them out with the foliage, and then I'll stick them back in the hole, and then I'll doctor them a little bit, and I'll show you how I played with some of these trees. Okay, this is how your trees come. They come in a plastic bag, and you get some different sizes of them. And this is one of the medium trees, and as you could tell, I'll hold it up against the white background. That doesn't look like much of a tree. They're just flat, and they have a base. You got to cut the base and all off from them. If you look at that base, that's about the corniest looking base I've ever seen. Haven't used one of them yet, and don't intend on using any of them. I got a whole slew of them down here that I'm gonna trash, but I use them to do my painting and putting the foliage on, and then once I stick them in the hole, them bases are going away. You can see you get different sizes of these things. This is one of the smaller trees, and they actually come in even smaller like these. And you also get some fir tree looking ones. There's one little tiny one there. And let me walk you back over here. And these are the other fir trees. They come in different sizes. I actually fell one down here. I figured that probably needed some dead trees down there too. But you can see there's a few in here I haven't done yet. And I found that I did get some different covering colors. I put some dark on these, and then I found some kind of really dark black conifer. It says conifer covering, so I'll put some of that on there to mix the colors up a little bit. But these are the pine tree looking ones, and they look pretty shabby pine trees up through there. But I only put those pine trees up on the mountainside over here, up the mountainside and over here. Now, is it right? I don't know. You know, I went online and took pictures and different types of trees at different types of years and whatever, and it was a big waste of time. I just started bending these things up, and that's what I'm gonna show you what I did here. Basically, I turned one of those there into that, and the way you do it, you just twist the trunk around until all these things are pointing in different directions. Let me try to do it. Well, as you can see, I had to set the camera up here a little goofy. First, you gotta break all this stuff off. Then you could just take the center here and just twist the tar out of it. Twist this one around and make it flat. Twist this one around, make it look flat. Then it still looks kind of goofy. But if you just work with it a little bit, bend this limb out, just toy with it a little bit to what you think it may look like. I'm going to twist this top one more time. I'm going to bend these down. Then all of a sudden, you have something that looks more like a tree, kinda. Now I didn't, I went to that Luke Talman again and looked at it, and he was scraping all the machine lines off and painting the I'm not going into all that. You know, if I put some green on here, make the tree look okay, that'll be okay with me. I'm not going to make this video very long, but I'll just show you what the technique I used to do these trees. Right, wrong, or indifferent, this is what I did. I took this hobby tack. This is some mess stuff here, boy. You get this stuff on your hands, you get on anything, and a little bit later you just got a sticky, gooey mess. But it does work good for putting this foliage on the trees. I'm going to show you on one how I did it. What I did was I took this hobby tack and I made me a puddle down here. And then I just took a paintbrush and I just touched it on the ends of all these things here. And of course, as you can see, it ain't not working with two hands, but every one of these ends I'll put some hobby tack on. And this is what will hold that foliage onto it. Let me get done and I'll show you the end. Okay, here we go. If you can see it up against that or not, but every one of these little limbs have on the tips I put hobby tack. Looks like I missed one right there, but that'll be all right. I'll put a little bit on there. Once you put that stuff on there, it says leave these things set for about 30 minutes and let the hobby tack, it won't go away. It's not going to dry hard. It's just going to dry into goop. And goop is a good word for that because it's gooey. And so I'll go ahead and do the rest of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them. And then when I get to putting the foliage on there, I'll come back and show you the rest. Okay, it only took about 10 minutes or so, and every one of these tips are coated with the hobby tack, and a lot of it's already drying. And hot tip, if it's white, do not try to dip your stuff in it, because you'll have that glue stuck into your foliage, and it comes off and it makes big clumps, whatever. Just leave the stuff alone. This one right here has hobby tack on it already, and you can see it's clear, and that thing is sticky, but at least it stays on the stick. And when you dip it in there, you pick your foliage up. And just don't be tempted. Don't be tempted like I was, trying to hurry up through the thing. Let that stuff all turn into goo. Once it's turned into goo, it ain't coming off. It's all solidified into place, and it won't come off in your foliage. I'm gonna take a break. In the morning, I'll come back, and all these should be dried up pretty good, and I'll dip a few for you and show you. Okay, this is next morning, and you can see that this stuff is no longer white. It's a little shiny on the tip, just to give you an idea. These things are sticky, and once they get stuck to each other, maybe I shouldn't have done that, but I just want to show you that this stuff's pretty sticky. And let me get that all unstuck, and I'll show you what I've done with the other stuff. With the kit, you get this big old bag of medium green clump foliage. You get a littler bag of the light green clump foliage, and you get a little bag of dark green clump foliage. And I put some turfs in there too. And you get this other bag of conifer, and you know, it's almost black, and you know, and then we looked it up, and there is some of those fir trees up there that I'm gonna try to mix in a little, just put the black or the dark green on some of those, just kind of mix them around. And so I'm gonna do some of those with this, but not right now. What I did was I took 2 buckets, and in one bucket I put the lighter colored stuff, and I just dumped some in the bag like yo. And some of those clumps are pretty big. It's foam, so I just kind of broke it up a little bit into littler pieces, because I didn't want big clumps on everything. And this one has enough in it already. This is the dark green, and I mixed some medium in with it. And you can see in a minute when I put this on there, if I got one in there that just doesn't look good, I'll pull it off. Yeah, let's try one of these trees. I'll give you an idea. Let's do them with the dark. I just stick it down in there and move it around, shake it off, and you got yourself a tree. Now what I'll do is I'll take my fingers and I'll, everywhere where it's stuck, I'll just pinch it just real good to make sure it's stuck into the glue a little bit. That's about as hard as it is. Now, what type of tree is this? It's a plastic tree. I'm not trying to make different types of trees. I'm just trying to make something that looks like a tree. Let me clean this one up a little bit and pinch some of these on with my other hand, and I'll come back. Okay, same tree, and all I did was I just kind of pinched to make sure that the green set inside of that glue pretty good. And that's pretty much all I've done to each one of these other trees on this course. And you know, I can't tell you much more than that. I just wanted to show you this, whether it's done right, wrong, or indifferent. I just wanted to show you that it's not nuclear science, and if you just want to put, you can do this. You know, I looked at it and I tried to make it real hard by going on and look at the types of trees and the types of foliage and what time of year, autumn, spring, winter, what they look like, how many dead trees. And you know, when it all boils down, it's what it looks good. It's kind of what my music guy told me when I started playing my banjo. If it sounds good, it must be good. So in this case, if it looks good, it must be good. If it looks good to your eye, you're fine.